Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgy kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. We love you guys. Thank you so much for what you do for the channel. We really, really appreciate it. And a big thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code Sinister and get 10% off all your purchases. We are doing a big push to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We are in a great position where we can make that happen, but we can't do it without you. So please consider hitting that subscribe button if you've been here a few times and you like what we do here. Without further ado, we're going to jump into this week's video. We're talking about the Oath of Redemption Paladin. The Oath of Redemption comes to us from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. This is a paladin that's a little bit different than all the paladins we've covered before, because this paladin uses violence almost as a last resort, unless you're a fiend, an undead, or some sort of demon or devil, or something that is inherently evil. In that moment, these paladins will not stop for a second to violently destroy you. Everything else with this paladin is about having the patience to guide people towards goodness, and a more of a redeeming kind of value. It's based around the idea that through good deeds you can overcome those horrible things that might have afflicted you, the way you grew up, the world you were in, the circumstances that have pushed you to where you are. It shows this kind of almost universal brotherhood of I know what it's like to be there and you can do better. And it tries to usher in that kind of an understanding and belief system that really pushes that, really calm kind of personality. Right off the bat, I am not the kind of person that likes playing support-like characters. I don't like being support characters at all. Healing is not my thing. In occasion, when I do have a character that does have the capability to heal, I will do that. But 9 times out of 10, I kind of stay away from that. But with this kind of a paladin, you don't have to dive too much into that, though you do have some inherent paladin healing. You can decide to still use your actions to be, and your spells to be more aggressive. Channel Divinity, Emissary of Peace. You can use your Channel Divinity to augment your presence with divine power. As a bonus action, you grant yourself a +5 bonus to Charisma Persuasion checks for the next 10 minutes. This is really designed for you to be the face kind of a character. This is a huge buff to persuasion, which is very, very powerful as a social tool and skill. This is one of your more common things. Persuading people is going to be, if you're gutsy enough to try and do that, is going to be very, very profitable. It can get you in and out of a lot of situation. It's it's unique because paladins don't ever get an ability like this besides this time. Channel Divinity, Rebuke the Violent. You can use your Channel Divinity to rebuke those who use violence. Immediately after an attacker within 30 feet of you deals damage with an attack against a creature other than you, you can use your reaction to force the attacker to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the attacker takes radiant damage equal to the damage it just dealt. On a successful save, it takes half as much damage. There are very few abilities in the game that give you this kind of thorn-like damage, where you deal out the same damage or a percentage of that damage to someone just for hitting you. There's a couple of tanking abilities like that, and the Rune Knight gets something similar to this. In the right moment, this will absolutely turn the tide of battle. If one of your party members gets critted by a monster, this might end that fight for you. You might win just from that monster taking that much radiant damage, specifically because it's radiant damage, and not many things are resistant to that, so it's a very powerful tool. I'd imagine if you're not in a party with a lot of faces, you will probably use Emissary of Peace. But if you do have a lot of faces, or that's not just the kind of character you want to play, Rebuke of the Violent is going to be your biggest usage of your Channel Divinity. Aura of the Guardian. Starting at 7th level, you can shield your allies from harm at the cost of your own health. When a creature within 10 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to magically take that damage, instead of that creature taking it. This feature doesn't transfer any other effects that might accompany the damage, and the damage can't be reduced in any way. At 18th level, the range of this aura increases to 30 feet. With this kind of a paladin, you build this strange concept where you're a tank, but it doesn't inherently push you to being aggressive and using your regular attacks. That being said, as a paladin, your regular attacks with smite, with improved smite, is going to be your go-to damage for literally everything. So you don't really have to worry too much about this. But this does encourage you to invest in your constitution. And you want that because if you have a party member that might be wielding a concentration spell or something like that, and you desperately understand the need for that spell to be up, this can change that tides of battle. This can make it work. This can make it very, very profound. You have to use this ability. If you don't ever use this ability, it really becomes a real waste of who your character can be, or that opportunity that you can save someone that desperately needs it. Everyone's seen your party members about to drop or something like that. That's that moment where you use this, where you can change that dynamically, and yeah, you're taking a big hit, but sometimes it's more important that other people stay up to accomplish certain goals, and even if that means you going down or unconscious. Protective Spirit. Starting at 15th level, a holy presence mends your wounds in combat. You regain hit points equal to 1d6 plus half your paladin level if you end your turn in combat with fewer than half your hit points remaining and you aren't incapacitated. There is only one other ability that I'm aware of currently that gives you this, and that comes from the champion fighter. What's important to note is how you understand what this actually does for you. You're at half HP. You're probably at 15th level, significantly higher than the point that 14 HP per round is really going to make a huge difference to you. And that's the max you can get from this ability at about this point. It's unique because it works very similar to temp HP at higher levels, where it's not that you're expecting this to absorb an entire hit or block an attack or a spell. What it's designed to do is become a unique sort of defensive ability or damage mitigation. You're getting anywhere between 5 and 14 HP per turn, as long as you're underneath half health. Every attack you get is going to be mitigated by that health. So say you take 20 damage. Now, instead of taking 20 damage, you took 10 damage. This is, again, before counting in any kind of resistances or anything, which you might already have based on items, spells, racial abilities, if you multi-class and still manage to reach this level with the Redemption Paladin. This comes together with a multitude of things, kind of pulling it together, giving yourself a more defensive ability. A lot of people see this and immediately write it off. It's not a huge buff. It's not at high levels. You're not looking at a huge number here. But what you are looking at is damage taken away, just removed right from the table, giving you a better survivability. Emissary of Redemption. At 20th level, you become an Avatar of Peace, which gives you the following benefits. You have resistance to all damage dealt by other creatures, their attacks, spells, and other effects. Whenever a creature damages you, it takes radiant damage equal to half the amount it dealt to you. If you attack a creature, cast a spell on it, or deal damage to it by any means but this feature, neither benefit works against that creature until you finish a long rest. This is hands down the worst ability I've ever seen. I can't believe this existed. It's just insane to me. So, first and foremost, having resistance to all damage dealt by other creatures is fantastic. That's just great. Whenever a creature damages you, it takes radiant damage equal to half the amount, which is totally fine. The worst part about this ability is that if you attack a creature, cast a spell on it, or deal damage to it by any means but this feature, neither benefit works against that creature until you finish a long rest. So if you attack something, you lose that resistance. If you heal something to that creature, if they wanted to attack you, they could. Once you do anything to another creature, if it damages you afterwards, it removes that instant reciprocal damage of radiant damage equal to half the amount it dealt to you. It's so polarizing of a skill. If you do fight something, you can do it almost one-on-one, and that's kind of how you have to look at everything. You have to tunnel everything down. You have to attack one creature until it is destroyed, and once you attack that creature, you do not have resistance to any of the damages that are given to you by this ability. Which, maybe that's okay. If you're the only tank in the game, this will probably work out if you're the only person capable of taking hits. But realistically, at 20th level, if you run up and you're the only one taking hits, you're going to drop probably by the end of that first or second round of combat. It doesn't matter what you do or how much resistance you have. It's too dangerous for you. The first time I read this, I misinterpreted it, and I thought that you couldn't do anything to anyone, and it made you like this ultimate pacifist, which is a horrible idea. But it does still give you the availability to tunnel down one enemy. The problem is, if you do anything that does any kind of AoE effect, and hits multiple people, or even say you cast fear because you took it from something else or somehow you got it, everything in that aura, whether it succeeds or it fails that saving throw, is now exempt from everything of Emissary of Redemption. It's a little strange, and I really just think it kind of missed the mark. Granted, it's always on. Passively, this is always on. But I'd rather take a minute duration and just have this be a very powerful thing than to feel like if I attacked or if I pushed or if I grappled an enemy to save a friend, that now I'm going to get pummeled to unconsciousness. Really doesn't feel like a 20th level capstone for me. One of the important things about making a redemption paladin is defining who or what you're redeeming. The easiest thing to redeem is yourself. You were an oathbreaker, you wanted to make amends for what you did. Violence is not the answer. You're going to try and do better. I'm a redemption paladin. I like the idea of redeeming something besides myself. Maybe you had a twin that ended up being a tiefling because your parents made a deal for their wealth, power, and nobility, and your brother now suffered the consequence. Having to redeem your family is something that I could really get behind, because it kind of pushes you to be a better example, and not resulting to violence shows that you're not a monster, that your family made a mistake and they weren't like this horrendous entity, and that it wasn't a result of just evil in your blood, that it's a choice to be better, and you can accomplish that, and you can show that your family is deserving of their position by following this path to do it. Or maybe you're trying to redeem someone you care about. Maybe you're working in a party and you're with someone with an evil alignment, and you're trying to help them by being that example and not being overbearing about it. Maybe you're trying to redeem your village, or people in your family, or a sect, you're part of a church, you're whatever it is, and you're trying to do better. You're trying to show that you can grow from that. And that alone gives you a great opportunity to role play and define who your character is, and really ask yourself questions and give yourself that real solid base to have an adventure and start out as one person and end up as a better version of that character because of the strides and and sacrifices you made to get there. And I think that's the best thing that the Redemption Paladin has to offer you, and I don't think you really get that with any other Paladin. With all that being said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It definitely helps the videos. Give us a like and subscribe if you really enjoyed it. If you've been here before and you like what we've done, definitely hit that subscribe button. Again, we're doing a push for 2,000 subscribers. We cannot do it without your help. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. A big thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion. Use that promo code Sinister. Get 10% off all of your purchases. And thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.